In my previous life, I was so blinded by love that I gave up my studies and eloped with Cain. He was lazy and unambitious, and it wasn't enough that I worked hard doing live broadcasts to support him. For money, he then sold me to a perverted big shot, and I was finally tortured to death. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when he confessed his love to me. Amber, be with me, and I'll make you happy. I pulled my hand out of his grip and turned my head to see the top student at the entrance of the alley. Classmate, he's harassing me. When I realized that I had been reborn, Cain had just asked me out and blocked me in the alley. He was still holding an ice cream that had been drugged in his hand. Classmate Cain, what are you doing? Cain got closer and closer and held my hand tightly. Amber, be with me, and I'll make you happy. Hearing Cain's words, I suddenly had an inexplicable stress reaction. My heart skipped a beat, and my mind became as clear as if it had been doused with ice water. Thinking that now that I had been reborn, there was no way I would fall into Cain's trap again. Without hesitation, I pulled my hand out of his tight grip and turned my head to see the top student at the entrance of the alley. Classmate, he's harassing me. In my previous life, it was because I accepted Cain's confession that I was tortured to death by that perverted big shot. After accepting the confession, I took the ice cream from Cain, not knowing that it was drugged, and he forced me to have sex with him. Amber, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive because I really love you too much. But please believe me. I'll be responsible for you and treat you well. I'll never leave you and will only love you all my life. I was completely taken in by Cain's lies one after another. I also had a big fight with my family because of him and gave up my studies to elope with him. I thought that as long as he loved me and I loved him, our love could overcome everything. I was willing to do anything for him. I thought that after eloping with Cain, he would love me more and we would work hard together to make money and build a home for us. But things didn't go as I expected. He was lazy and unambitious, living a muddled life all day long. He didn't go to make money, just recharged money to play games at home during the day and went to bars to drink at night. Gradually, we couldn't even afford the rent. Cain, you should find a job. The rent is due soon. Baby, I don't want to. I just want to stay with you every day, in our home. Later, Cain asked me to do live broadcasts to make money and told me to cozy up to big shots. He also asked me to dress more revealingly, saying that only in this way could I attract more viewers and make more money. But when I finally managed to make some money, Cain secretly took my phone and transferred all the money to his bank card account. Baby, I'm just keeping it for you. I'll save the money, and then we can go to the city to buy a house that belongs only to us, and we won't have to worry about the rent anymore. At first, I was quite happy because Cain finally knew how to plan for the future. Until I saw Cain dressed neatly at the entrance of the bar, holding a bouquet of flowers in his left hand, with an uncontrollable smile on his face and his eyes full of expectation. A girl walked slowly over, and Cain handed the flowers to her, still saying something that I couldn't hear. The girl's figure and temperament were very familiar to me, but I just couldn't remember who she was. Then Cain suddenly took out a bag from behind as a surprise and gave it to the girl. I had seen that bag before. I had always liked its style and design, but since it cost tens of thousands of yuan, I hadn't dared to buy it. Finally, Cain kissed the girl on the cheek and then took her hand and walked into the bar, leaving me standing stupidly on the opposite side of the road. I looked down at my outfit that cost less than 100 yuan all over, and I didn't know what the point of my hard work was. It was as if the road ahead was blocked by a thick fog, and I couldn't see clearly at all. In the following days, Cain still lived a topsy-turvy life as usual, relying on the money I earned to meet his basic needs. I didn't mention this matter to him either. I wanted to keep it to myself, but I also hoped that he would take the initiative to bring it up first. But Cain still thought that the money I earned was too little and not enough for his expenses. Baby, Sister Circe came to see me. She said she asked me to persuade you to work for her. She said she would give you a high salary. As long as you go, we can buy a house sooner. I looked at Cain in disbelief. Cain, do you know that the jobs Sister Circe introduced are all about selling one's body? Do you really want to buy a house that belongs to both of us? Cain's thoughts seemed to be seen through by me, and he lowered his head with his eyes wandering. The next second, the door was opened. I was pinned down tightly by a group of people and fainted after being covered with a drug towel over my mouth and nose. Later, I learned that a wealthy man had bought me for 500,000 yuan. It was something that Cain and sister Circe had colluded to do. In the days that followed, I lived a life worse than death because that wealthy man was a pervert with a serious tendency to abuse others. He liked to see others in pain. Finally, I was tortured to death by that perverted big shot. I looked up at the top student Phoenix, whom I had stopped, and tried hard to squeeze out a few tears to pretend to be pitiful. If I tell the dean of students about your harassing female classmates, will you be expelled? Kane glared at Phoenix viciously, threw the ice cream casually, and turned around and left. I didn't expect you to be at a loss when being pestered by such a guy. My home is nearby. If you're still afraid that he'll come to you, you can go to and from school with me. Okay? Thank you, Phoenix. Phoenix's enthusiasm also made me feel at a loss. The cold and aloof top student in the class who usually looked fierce turned out to be so helpful. After getting home, I just felt a pang of sadness and grievance. I didn't expect it to be so easy to get rid of Cain. I felt sorry for myself in the previous life who had given everything for a man but was betrayed. I was still being used as a stepping stone by Cain even before I died, but I also felt that I was lucky. God was willing to give me a chance to start over. The school was still the same as I remembered. Originally, with my grades, there would have been absolutely no problem for me to be admitted to a key university until Cain showed up. Although the school hadn't changed, the feeling that my classmates gave me was completely different. No matter where I went in the school, there were people looking me up and down. Or they would take a look at me and then chatter with their friends beside them, not knowing what they were talking about. Oh, isn't this the female star? A sharp and harsh voice came, and Bellatrix walked slowly over and patted me on the shoulder. The works of the female star are really unforgettable, ha 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 ha. Her friends beside her also laughed along. I had already had conflicts with Bellatrix before, but usually at most we just rolled our eyes at each other when we met. Why did she come to scold me on her own initiative today? Only my best friend Delilah rushed over in a hurry and looked at me with a puzzled and distressed expression. Delilah, what's going on with everyone? Why are they all looking at me like this? I was really afraid that Delilah's reply would be that everyone knew that I had been reborn. Because if that was the case, then there would be no point in me living this new life. Amber, a person can be poor, but one's ambition shouldn't be poor. You shouldn't. Delilah was at a loss for words and just handed me the mobile phone that she had secretly brought to school. An 18+ video was playing on it. At first, when I saw it, I couldn't understand at all why Delilah would show me such a video. It wasn't until I saw the woman's face. That face was exactly the same as mine. There was also a recording. The content of the conversation was roughly that the woman agreed to have sex with the man because she wanted the man's money. There was also the woman's self-introduction in the recording. The identity information was exactly the same as mine, but a voice changer was used, so I didn't know what the real voice was like. Amber, is this true or false? Tell me the truth. I just shook my head at Delilah and told her not to worry because I really hadn't done such a thing. That video and recording were definitely fake. They were just deliberately forged by someone who wanted to frame me. The question of who framed me was also obvious. In my previous life, I accepted Cain's confession, so nothing happened. Yesterday, I rejected him, and it was a rather insulting rejection. It was normal for him to take revenge considering his character. After school, Phoenix found me. Are you still afraid that he'll come to you? I'm afraid. Can we go together? I asked Phoenix tentatively, and he agreed to me without hesitation. Phoenix didn't seem to know about this matter. The people beside him wanted to remind him but hesitated to speak. On the way home from school together, there were also quite a lot of whispering voices. Look, isn't that the girl from the gossip wall yesterday? Yes, it is. She. Why is she walking with Phoenix? Could the man in the video be Phoenix? Shh. Keep your voices down. You'll be in trouble if Phoenix hears you. Actually, I wasn't afraid at all. After all, I had already died once. But Kane definitely couldn't have imagined that no matter how good his face-changing technology was, he didn't know that I could also use technological means. When I got home and turned on the computer, I easily hacked into Kane's computer. What caught my eye was a folder named Amber. Opening the folder, there was not only that video in it but also a plan about how to get me and how to use me in the future. It was exactly the same as my experience in my previous life. But I just smiled helplessly. It turned out that my fate in my previous life was just a plan that had been calculated in advance by others. I had already guessed it. After all, a person couldn't go bad all of a sudden. Kane must have planned it long ago. I also watched that short video. I had to say that Kane really put a lot of effort into it. For a video that was more than 20 minutes long, the face was changed frame by frame. One could imagine how much time and energy it took. But actually, if you looked carefully, there were still some obvious technical errors in some places. Sometimes my facial features didn't even appear on my face properly, but no one noticed. Well, after all, no one would want to explore the authenticity of gossip. Since Kane's efforts had been seen, then the process of his efforts should also be shown to others. Otherwise, it would be a pity. By the way, I could make him famous and give him a hand. I took screenshots of all the videos and materials he made with the computer, transferred them to my mobile phone, and I also printed them out on purpose. Afraid that it wasn't enough, I printed out many more copies. The next day, on the way to school with Phoenix, everyone avoided me. No, not just me. They also avoided Phoenix, and the whispering voices became louder. Why does Phoenix walk with that girl every day? Could he like her? Doesn't Phoenix know about this matter? Have you heard? The male lead in that video is actually Phoenix. No wonder there are relevant legal punishments for rumor-mongering and spreading rumors. It's really scary. But I still didn't plan to tell Phoenix about this matter. Because of my experience in my previous life, I was reluctant to trust anyone anymore. When I arrived at the classroom, Bellatrix didn't know what was wrong with her. She deliberately walked up to me and shouted loudly at me, "Bitch." I was too lazy to pay attention to her. After all, I hadn't caused any trouble. I just called Kane out alone. What? Do you regret not accepting my confession? I chuckled softly. He seemed to still be pretending to be stupid. Kane, you're really disgusting. Just because your plan didn't succeed after your confession failed, you're going to use such vulgar means to frame people, right? What are you talking about? Amber, it's you who did the shameful things. Don't spout nonsense here. I took out the evidence that I had printed out last night and threw it in Kane's face. Forging rumors like this has seriously affected my normal life. Guess if this is illegal or not. Yes, I did it. I don't know how you got this evidence either. But since the video is fake, then your evidence can also be fake or fabricated. So guess how many people will believe you? I was speechless and didn't waste any more words with Kane. I turned around and left, because I had a recording pen with me and recorded what Kane had just said. Now the evidence was completely in my hands. It was useless no matter how much he tried to argue. I was thinking about how to take revenge on Kane in my mind. Suddenly I was pulled by someone. Before I could see who it was, I was dragged into the toilet by several girls and the door was locked from the inside. Slut, how dare you seduce Phoenix? It's so disgusting. I want to see if your pussy is really fucked up. Those girls were much taller than me and pinned me firmly against the wall. Ha ha ha, you still have this moment. There was another sharp laugh. Bellatrix walked over and grabbed my hair tightly. What kind of drug did you give Phoenix? I want Phoenix to see how dirty you are down there. After saying that, Bellatrix bent down to pull down my pants. But I lifted my foot and kicked her in the face. I sneered, "Who the hell do you think you are? Do you deserve to touch me?" Bellatrix's good friends found that something was wrong and rushed over all at once. They slapped me 4 or 5 times in a row and also kicked my lower abdomen several times. I just felt that the world was spinning and there was a strong smell of blood in my throat. I felt that this feeling was very familiar. I had suffered a lot of such torture from that perverted big shot, but the tricks of these people were far inferior to those of the perverted big shot. At this time the toilet door was opened and Kane walked in with several metal skewers in his hand. At this time I really felt that something was wrong, so I quickly reached into my pocket to get the recording pen and turn on the recording mode. Kane walked closer and closer, took out the recording pen from my pocket and threw it hard on the ground. That small recording pen was instantly smashed to pieces. "You should have hidden it more carefully." Then he asked Bellatrix to take off my outer pants, picked up a metal skewer, looked at it and then stabbed it hard into my thigh. I just felt a rush of heat in my leg and instantly I lost my strength and blood kept flowing out continuously. Kane handed the remaining metal skewers to Bellatrix, signaling her to continue. Bellatrix also took the metal skewers with great interest and stabbed them into my flesh one by one. I just watched helplessly as the bright red blood slowly flowed out from the wounds. The pain spread like ink, permeating every corner of my body, leaving me with nowhere to escape. I kept trembling all over, but my eyes were still fixed on Bellatrix, glaring at her. The corners of her mouth almost reached her ears and she kept repeating words like, "Die, die. Once you're dead, Phoenix will be mine," in her mouth. Am I going to die here? Why is it that even after getting a second chance at life, I'm still going to die at the hands of Kane? No, no, no. This thought kept popping up in my mind. Just when I was watching helplessly as the last metal skewer was about to be stabbed into my throat, the toilet door was opened again. It was Phoenix. Everyone looked at Phoenix in confusion and I took this opportunity to snatch the metal skewer from Bellatrix's hand and stab it into her face. "Ah, my face." Bellatrix covered her face in pain and I yanked the skewer out of my thigh and stabbed it into Bellatrix's body again, not giving her any chance to react. In just a short while, several bloody holes had been stabbed into Bellatrix's body. Her little sisters wanted to do something but didn't dare to move. "Amber, I'm sorry. I was just too impulsive just now. I'm sorry. Please let me go." "Okay, when did you ever let me go?" After saying that, I pulled out the last metal skewer on my body and stabbed it hard into Bellatrix's eye. Soon Bellatrix, who had been screaming and begging for mercy, stopped moving. Phoenix didn't seem too surprised. He just took out his mobile phone and called the ambulance and the police. Kane seemed to realize that something was wrong and secretly climbed out of the window and fled in a hurry. The police arrived at the school quickly. The medical staff carried me and Bellatrix onto stretchers and sent us to the hospital. I don't remember what happened later. All I know is that when I woke up, several policemen were surrounding me and told me that Bellatrix had died at my hands. However, I was released without being charged. I didn't understand why. A nurse told me that a boy had gone to the police station and said that he was an eyewitness for me. I didn't need to think about it. That boy must be Phoenix. When I'm discharged from the hospital, I must thank him properly. The nurse also said that I didn't kill on purpose but was just acting in self-defense. Later, the police investigated the surveillance footage and the wounds on my body and confirmed that it was true, so they didn't do anything to me. After I recovered from my injuries, I went back to school. Everyone kept a greater distance from me. Only Delilah and Phoenix stayed by my side. Surprisingly, Kane was still staying in the school just fine. I heard that Kane had also been taken away by the police at that time, but he was just given a verbal warning. I didn't have enough evidence to report him because the recording pen had already been broken and the screenshots on my mobile phone alone were not powerful enough. However, I thought that after this incident, Kane definitely wouldn't come to harass me again. I also wanted to study hard, go to university properly, escape from Kane, and take a different path from my previous life. The days that followed passed quickly and were rather uneventful. Only when I occasionally met Kane, he always looked at me with a half-smile and I always felt a silent malice in his eyes, which made me shiver. Soon, it was time for the coming-of-age ceremony. Someone rushed towards me quickly and forced a piece of paper into my hand. The content on it was, "Actually, there's someone else behind all these incidents. Pay more attention to the people around you after being reborn." My heart was pounding like a drum. Did someone know that I had been reborn? But I still suppressed my emotions and didn't want to believe it. I said that I didn't believe it and didn't care, but there was still a hurdle in my heart. I wanted to know who exactly knew that I had been reborn and whether it was true that there was someone else behind all this. I just felt a chill run down my spine. I uneasily thought about Phoenix and Delilah in my mind because they were the only two people who would still care about me. Delilah had been my friend since kindergarten and even our mothers had become good sisters. So Delilah definitely wouldn't do anything to betray me. That left only Phoenix. Come to think of it, it was indeed strange. Why had he protected me for so long for no reason? He even went to the police station to defend me. What was his purpose? Why are you in a daze? I'm going to give a speech on stage. Won't you cheer me on? Phoenix's voice suddenly rang in my ear, and I was startled because I had just been suspecting him and felt a bit guilty. Okay, go ahead. Phoenix was speaking as an outstanding student representative. Besides, he was fair-skinned and slender, so many classmates and teachers were listening to his speech carefully. That's the end of my speech. But there's one more thing I want to share with you all. A lot of things have happened to classmate Amber recently. I'm sure you've all heard about them. But there's one more thing that hasn't been made public. She has silently endured a lot of cold violence from her classmates. I was stunned. I didn't expect Phoenix to mention me, and still in front of the whole school. I think you've all seen the video in which classmate Amber was slandered. But did anyone care about the authenticity of this matter? Did anyone care about classmate Amber's real feelings? Everyone turned to look at me, and whispers rose one after another. The big screen behind Phoenix played the evidence I had collected before, accompanied by the audio I had recorded with the recording pen before. But wasn't that recording pen? Amber, honey, do I look pretty in this dress? Delilah's arrival interrupted my thoughts. She was wearing a dress for the coming-of-age ceremony and had curly hair. She asked me this question. Oh my God, you look gorgeous today. I just replied perfunctorily because Delilah's outfit always gave me a sense of déjà vu and made me feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, these strange things one after another were really irritating and disturbing. When the coming-of-age ceremony ended, many people came to apologize to me, saying that they had completely misunderstood me before and had spread rumors. Now they came to ask for my forgiveness. And the target of these people's violence then became Kane. Kane was the typical tough-talking guy and even threatened to kill me. As a result, before I even saw him, I heard that he had jumped off a building and committed suicide because he couldn't bear the cold violence and malicious remarks from his classmates. So he was also afraid of these things. I thought he couldn't feel any pain. Kane was dead, and the incident seemed to be over, but it didn't feel like it was really over. I didn't feel relieved at all. I always felt that something was still weighing on my heart. Although Phoenix's actions were quite touching, they also made me suspicious. I always felt that something was very wrong. However, I still couldn't break through this layer of mystery for now. I just wanted to study hard, get into a school far away, and take a different path in life. So I couldn't let these things cloud my mind for now. Later, I didn't go to and from school with Phoenix anymore, nor did I meet him alone again. Even if I really had something urgent to talk to him about, I would always bring Delilah along every time. On the day of graduation, our class organized to go singing. Everyone was very excited. After studying for 12 years, we could finally let loose. I sat on the sofa beside and watched Delilah go up to sing. At this time, Phoenix squeezed beside me. Just as I was about to complain to him a few words, I was stunned by what he said. The air conditioner was set at 24 degrees, which wasn't cold, but I felt as if I were in an ice cellar. The noise and chatting voices of everyone disappeared from my mind in an instant, and only Phoenix's words remained. It seems that you still haven't found out who the real mastermind is even after being reborn once. I suddenly looked up and stared at Phoenix with wide eyes. Phoenix got up and signaled me to go outside to talk. What are you talking about being reborn? I don't understand. Have you read too many rebirth novels on the internet? Ha ha ha. Amber, I'm not that stupid. My heart was pounding as if it was about to jump out of my body. Coincidentally, I've also been reborn. But you're luckier than me because I have an additional system compared to you. Although the system knows everything, I can only truly have the freedom of rebirth after completing the tasks given by the system. So what about you now? I'm free now. I've completed the tasks given by the system. I looked at Phoenix cautiously. So, the mastermind is actually you. You approached me and hurt me because you wanted to complete the system's tasks, right? No, I approached you because I like you. At first, I didn't react. When I did react, I was also startled by the sudden confession. Huh? No, you like me? Phoenix nodded. If I say that the mastermind isn't me, who do you think it is? Phoenix's words really woke me up. In my mind, the figure of the woman I saw at the entrance of the bar in my previous life overlapped with Delilah's figure at the coming-of-age ceremony. Delilah was the mistress I saw at that time. Suddenly, there was a sharp pain in my chest, as if I had been hit hard by a heavy hammer, and I felt that I couldn't breathe. I was trembling all over and asked Phoenix shakily, "Is it Delilah?" It seems that you're not stupid either. From the moment I first saw Cain, I was sure that he wasn't the one who planned these things. He's a person who only talks tough and cares about face but is weaker than anyone else in his heart. How could he possibly do these things? So I investigated for a long time and also found a lot of evidence. These things were indeed planned by your good friend Delilah. But I've known her for so long. We've been friends since we were kids. How could this be possible? As I said this, tears fell from my eyes. People can change. Perhaps you were originally good friends, but for some reasons, maybe jealousy or dislike, she developed hatred towards you and did such things. After Phoenix said this, he suddenly moved closer, and my face turned red in an instant. Phoenix, what are you doing? Why is your face red? Don't think that I'm going to kiss you, do you? No. Close your eyes and open your mouth. I looked at Phoenix with a puzzled expression. Phoenix's face looked even more handsome and cold under the moonlight. I'm going to kiss you. Just like that, Phoenix and I got together somehow, but the people around us didn't find it strange because we usually stayed together every day. Those people had already regarded us as a couple. However, what we needed to solve now was the problem of Delilah. I really thought that Delilah was quite something. I couldn't believe that she had been able to deceive me for so long. It's just that she still didn't know that I already knew that she was the mastermind. She still asked me to chat and go out to play every day and even planned where we would travel during the 3-month summer vacation. But looking at Delilah like this, I still couldn't bring myself to believe that she was the real mastermind behind all this. Why are you so absent-minded? I came to my senses and realized that I was currently on a date with Phoenix. I still can't accept that Delilah is actually. But Amber, have you forgotten how much pain you suffered in your previous life? You told me that you were reborn in this life not for others but for yourself. Yes, Delilah could even betray me, frame me, and even try to murder me. Why should I still think about her and care about her? At this time, Phoenix handed me a notebook. I looked at him doubtfully, but he kept signaling with his eyes for me to open it and have a look. This is Delilah's diary. Yes, I copied the content of Delilah's diary and it had been stored in the system before. This diary was marked with the year of this year, so it should be this year's diary. I opened the first few pages and there were all kinds of malicious curses about me. Amber, you really make me sick. I don't know what you're pretending to be. You always act like a white lotus and a saint. It makes me want to vomit. Every time I'm by your side, I feel like a clown. Why are you so popular while I can only be said to be in your shadow? Amber, I really want you to die. Cain, that useless piece of trash, actually jumped off the building and committed suicide. He deserved it. Fortunately, I made an arrangement with the people from the beggars' gang. I'll ask Amber out on the night of the 17th and then push her into the group of beggars. Then her life will be ruined, and I won't have to live in her shadow anymore. The 17th? Isn't that tomorrow? Fortunately, both Phoenix and I had a wide network of contacts and we quickly found those people from the beggars' gang. I paid a deposit to each of them and told them that I would pay the rest after the thing was done. The beggars' gang cared most about money and repeatedly told me to prepare well. Amber, I confessed my love to a boy and was rejected. I'm so sad. Can you come out and take a walk with me to comfort me? Delilah called me and as expected, she asked me to go out. Of course, I agreed to her. We talked about all kinds of things from love to the past. Delilah also told many stories about our childhood, but I knew that she was just talking. In her heart, she had already become extremely cold. While chatting, we somehow walked into a small path. Delilah told me not to be afraid and that she knew the way out and just needed to hold her hand. I did as she said. Suddenly, at a corner, Delilah pushed me hard, but I had expected it in advance, so I still stood firmly in place. Instead, I kicked Delilah. Delilah fell to the ground, and then from all directions of the alley, a group of beggars from the beggars' gang that I had arranged in advance walked quickly towards her. They were as hungry as wild beasts that hadn't eaten for days. When they saw Delilah, they rushed towards her one after another. You've got the wrong person. It's her, not me. Get up. But no one answered her. Amber, save me. Don't go. Save me quickly. I don't want to be dirted by them. Did you ever really think about me when you planned all this? After saying that, I turned around and walked away. Later, I was admitted to my ideal school. After graduation, Phoenix and I jointly invested in and managed a company. In the past 6 or 7 years, I had never heard any news about Delilah. Until one day when Phoenix and I went to deliver supplies to the impoverished mountainous areas in the neighboring county, I accidentally saw a female beggar on the street with messy hair and an old broken bowl in front of her. She was begging every passerby, but no one was willing to pay any attention to her. Please give me some alms. As long as you give me money, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. I walked up to her. She didn't seem to recognize me yet and just regarded me as an ordinary passerby. Really? You'll do whatever I ask you to do, really, really? It's absolutely. Is that you? I took out a handful of money and put it into the broken bowl in front of Delilah. TSK, how pitiful. Well, I'll give you some alms. Just kowtow to me 3 times. Delilah no longer had the overbearing air she used to have. Without much hesitation, she lowered her head and started kowtowing to me. I walked back to the car with a smile. What's the matter? Let's go. It's nothing. I just thought this beggar was pitiful, so I gave her some alms. The end.